Right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another enlightening episode of NMP Talk Show. Today we have a very special guest that has joined us today. We'll be shedding some light on a topic that is incredibly important yet often misunderstood. And this we're talking about mental health therapy. Joining us is Laia Waltzman. I hope I pronounced the name correctly.
Lear,
um,
Nelly.
Leah, yeah.
Mhm.
So she's a distinguished therapist with extensive experience in helping children, teenagers, and adults navigate the complexities of mental health. Leah is very passionate about the work that she's doing, and her compassionate approach and profound insight have made significant impact on countless lives. I mean, today she's here with us, and she's going to share her expertise. How fortunate are we to have her on the show? We will delve into the unique challenges that are faced by different age groups, exploring effective therapeutic techniques and discussing how we can all contribute to a more supportive and understanding environment to those that are struggling with mental health. So, whether you're a parent seeking advice or guidance, a teenager looking for support, or an adult wanting to better their understanding about mental health journey, this episode is for you. And it promises to do both be informative and also inspiring. We're also looking forward to questions and comments coming from you, those that are connected on Telegram. You can raise your hand and share your comment there. And also those that are connected on Riverside, you'll be able to type your answers, I mean, your comments, not answers. You type your comments or questions, and then we'll read it out to our guest. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming our special guest, Leah Waltzman. Leah, welcome to NMP Talk Show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Really
Thank
excited.
you for honoring this invite. We're
Yeah.
looking forward to it. So, Leah, in my introduction, short introduction about yourself, I already spoke that what you're doing. But
Mhm.
I'd like you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and especially the organization that you're running, so that we can have our audience, in the same page before
For
we
sure.
we, we delve into the topic.
Yeah. So I'm Lear, as you said, and I'm a child, teen, and family psychologist. So providing therapy specifically for children, teenagers, and parents and families. And the organization or company that I founded is Breaking the Chalk, which is an online therapy practice. So, providing therapy and mental health support virtually. So, for clients, really anywhere in the world and at the comfort of your own home, you get mental health care. And it's really from, when I started in the world of mental health and working specifically with children and studying about them, that really is what inspired Breaking the Chalk and really breaking the way we provide mental health care.
All right. So you're saying
Yeah.
you can connect with anyone around the world. So in the comfort
Yeah.
of their home, you are able to give that support.
hmm That therapy. Yeah. So it's really just online, virtually,
Okay.
through a video platform, and you gain therapy for your child, for your teenager, for yourself, as a parent, as a family member.
You know,
Yeah.
I like how you embrace technology because
Yeah.
some of us when you talk about therapy, Yeah, no, you're afraid to go out there and look for a therapist because you
Uh-huh.
know the misconceptions that's there already. If you go to a therapist, we all think, or we might think that you're cuckoo there, you know,
Hmm. Of
and
course.
which is not the
Yeah,
case.
there is
And
that. Mm.
hopefully, our discussion today will dispel all those, um,
Hopefully. Yeah.
yeah, that people are thinking if you're looking for therapy, then there's something wrong with your IQ
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
whatever they want to refer it to.
And yeah, and it's so misunderstood because I always
Mm.
compare it to like our physical health, right? So
Yes,
like
yes.
if you have, I don't know, some physical illness, you won't be shy to go to the doctor or
No,
embarrassed to mention it.
yeah, yeah.
But if it's something to do with your brain, which is a part of your body,
Mm,
anyways, then
mm,
there's so many, myths and stereotypes and stigma that's attached when really with everyone has mental health. You, me, the listeners, whoever, everyone has mental health. Some of us just struggle with it, just like we have physical health, and some of us just struggle with it. So,
and you're right. I was reading some articles, and they also said that everyone we all have mental crisis, mental
mhm,
issues. It's how we deal with it, and some are okay. They're able to deal with it, fairly, but
mhm,
some of us may need to have somebody intervene, help us, support us,
absolutely,
hold our hand, so that we can navigate the streets of mental wellness. So
absolutely.
let's jump into the meat of all things, right?
Yes.
What is your experience and background in working with children, teens, and adults dealing with anxiety and depression?
So I've been in the mental health field for what, like over 8 years. Um, and first started off just really by, advocating. So doing a lot of speeches and talking to the government, really trying to advocate for the youth's mental health, for better care. And I started studying it and psychology and art therapy and play therapy and child psychology and psychotherapy, like all the different therapies and psychologies. Um, and then it's been over 8 years where specifically with anxiety and depression, where anxiety is the most prominent, really. Um, it's, we I provide therapy for it, and really something that I think is really important with anxiety and depression, specifically for patients, is understanding it. So, really learning about it. What does it mean? Where does it come from? What are my triggers? And then to get the tools on how to help, how do I help myself after my session with you? What do I do about my depression? So, um, my experience with it is working specifically with children and teenagers um, for 8 years with different ages, really from my youngest is 5 years old. My oldest is 22. So really a broad, broad
Mm.
spectrum of ages. But that's really the beauty of it. But my studies are specifically around youth mental health. So that's
Wow.
really the specialty. Yeah.
Uh, I guess for you could also be a challenge to walk into your office or connecting online with somebody, a
Mm.
family that are needing your services, and
Mhm.
it's a 5-year old.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? We always talk about the other side of the story,
Hmm.
us looking for assistance from you, but we never talk about you who are offering that service assistance that you have to listen to. I don't know how many families or how many people that are coming crying to you, needing help. Where
Yeah.
do you find
A lot.
yourself? How do you deal with it?
So
Like from your personal experience, yeah.
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of different. Working with a teenager, with an 18-year-old versus a 5-year-old, is very different.
Mm,
A 5-year-old isn't going to sit with you and be like, today this is what happened. Not going to do that.
yeah.
So it has to be very interactive. So like games and drawing and listening to the 3,000 stories that happened at play school, and being really interested, and it takes a lot of energy. So it's hours of really like sitting and listening, and every single patient is so different, with different challenges, different ages. So one can be just sobbing for an hour, and the
Mm-hmm.
other can be 45 minutes of playing and talking about feelings. So it's very different. And at the end of the day, sometimes I like leave the space and I'm like, don't talk to me. I cannot hear anyone
You
because you
can do.
really give it your all for hours on hours and
Yeah,
hours.
yeah.
And for me, especially, I don't only work with the client for that hour. I'm always on the phone with the parents afterwards. And then it's feedbacks. And then it's, she's not going to school. What do I do? And then it's working, as soon as you wake up,
Mm,
it's
mm.
talking. And so it's a lot of patience and compassion, but if it's something that I really love doing, so it
Yeah.
fulfills me just as much. But it's definitely intense. It's definitely
I guess
intense, but I do it
that's
with
the
a lot of
key.
love. Yeah.
I guess that's the key. Having passion for that.
Hmm. You
Otherwise, you
have
won't
to.
survive. Yeah,
No,
you.
no. Yeah, but it comes
And
from a personal space as well, so I think that's
yeah.
why there's also a lot of passion behind it.
Okay. Okay.
Mm.
So I guess this opens up another question that I can ask. The therapeutic approaches you have or you commonly use when you treat
Mhm.
anxiety and depression, because we touched on the difference when you're dealing with a 5-year-old, a teenager, and you also have an adult as well, that
Yeah.
you're dealing with, and then reports thereafter. But what therapeutic approaches do you commonly use when you're treating these two aspects,
So
anxiety and
yeah,
depression?
so there's mainly three that I
Mm,
use, which is, so I specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy, and that is
okay.
specifically really good for anxiety and depression, but also anxiety, is changing how we think, basically. So
Okay.
we can think in a very negative way or in a very unhelpful way, and that affects how we feel, which affects how we behave. And so we go right to the start and we talk about, okay, well, how can we think differently, or how can we change how we're thinking? Um, Really kind of taking control of our thoughts. So cognitive behavioral therapy is one main approach that I use. And then the others are play and art. And this is specifically with the little ones, um, but also with adults who experience trauma. So,
Mm,
art and play therapy is just a different way to express yourself, basically. Um, and when we don't have words for what we're feeling or what we went through, then we draw it and process it in that way. So, specifically, in the world of trauma, in the world of depression, we use art and play. And then cognitive behavioral therapy is one of a specialty approach that I use.
nice, nice.
Yeah,
That must have put a lot of thought into into designing that work frame.
totally.
It
Hmm.
does, and your tailor. How do you tailor your therapy approach when you're working with children versus teens and adults? And I know you touched on that in that you're using drawings and speaking and all of that. But can you expand a little more on that?
Yeah. So with children, right, with
Yeah.
kids, it has to be very interactive in order for them to really team with you to talk about things. So with children, it's very play based and art based. So a lot of games, a lot of stories, a lot of acting out. Um, that's one approach with children. And then with teenagers, it's a lot of relating to them. So knowing all the lingo, um, and doing a lot of practical work. So getting them, when you're in this situation, this is what you're needing to do. Um, and really just giving them, specifically with teenagers who are really misunderstood, is to really give them that space to just talk about anything and about everything in that safe space. And with adults, it's very informative and practical. So getting them to understand what's going on with whatever it is that they're struggling with or whatever their child is struggling with, and then being practical about it. So again, same as the teenager, what can I do? How can I help myself? And giving them the tools, and then they are empowered. And above that, there's the tailoring of every patient is different. So what I do with patient A is going to be completely different to, even if patient B has the same anxiety as patient A is a completely different person to patient B. So my approach is going to be different as well. So it's not only tailored to the age, but also to the patient. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does make sense because I think you can be caught in in a standard to say, okay, if
Mm,
you come with a certain mental health issue, this is what you do. Ta -ta 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 -ta. No thought goes into it for a particular person, because I would understand that there will be extenuating circumstances that are pushing the person to be on that level,
yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
those circumstances are different to the other person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you follow that, it can be a misdiagnosis, right?
of course. Yeah. And also, it's so not black and white. There's no box to it.
Mm,
And
mm,
that's what's also really hard with children and teenagers is, a parent will be like, well, it's not working, or this isn't working. And I'm like, well, I we can try.
mm,
Patient A, it works great with patient A that has the same
mm,
symptoms, but now we need to adjust it because everyone responds differently to the treatment and everyone
yeah.
takes a different time to it, right? So someone can be really good within 3 months, some 2 years. It's different for everyone. We all have a different
Mm,
psyche, we all have different, as you said, circumstances and contexts, and we have to take all this into account, um, in therapy and in their approach. So it's definitely complex, and it's not straightforward at all.
I
So
can imagine.
yeah,
I can imagine. So, my word.
Lear.
Um, Leo,
It's hard.
yeah, that's a tongue twister for me, Leo.
Leary is easier. Leary is easier.
Larry, Larry.
Leary. Yes, there we
Okay,
go.
okay. Or should I say Miss L?
Miss L, yeah, there we go. What's
All right.
wrong? Yeah. Mm,
So when you're working with, especially anxiety and
mhm.
depression, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that there are the similar triggers between the three groups, like the children, the teens, and the adults?
Yes. Very similar. So most of it
Mm,
is so most of it is because of things that are really that the feeling of being out of control. So
mhm,
maybe something's changing in the family, maybe there's that confidence, maybe there was trauma that happened, so like a divorce or some change of school, something like that. parents, big trigger. Um, and all of it, all that out of control feeling that comes from a change in school, a change in environment, a trauma, parents, same concepts, come out as anxiety or come out as not being able to regulate yourself or comes out as low moods. And it's presented slightly different in each age group, but it's the same um, patterns, basically, of that out of control feelings
Mm,
um, that really makes someone freak out, basically. As soon as something doesn't go to plan or something changed in environments, our almost like our inherent systems just kind of get blocked, and we're like, "Ah," and we freak out, and we don't know what to do, and it raises that anxiety or drops that mood really low. Presents differently in different age groups, um, but a lot of it has to do with that feeling of being out of control and that change that happens in
sure.
our
Yeah.
environment. Yeah,
We all going through a lot, eh?
a lot, so much,
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
but
We're
very
having this
similar, very
very
similar.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, some of the things are out of your control. So we can't really
Yeah.
say, no, man, come on, snap out of it. You know?
Literally, it's like, oh no, my parents must just get back together. God,
Yeah.
sorry, not gonna work.
It can
Yeah,
happen.
and that's and one of the things with therapy is we want to show the patient that how they respond to the
Hmm.
trigger is where their power is, and that's really where the tools come in. Is yeah, there's going to be a change, and that's out of your control, but how you're going to respond to it is, and that's your power.
Oh,
So yeah, so
you
as
really
soon
need
as
to know
they notice,
yourself.
sorry,
So, so you really need to know yourself because
exactly.
how do you determine how you react to the trigger?
Yeah, and that's part of that awareness, right? Like that cognitive behavioral therapy, that
Yeah.
awareness of being like, oh, this is triggering me. Okay,
Mm,
I need to put something here to help myself. Or this is out of my control. Okay, I know this is my pattern, so this is what I need to do.
mm,
And that's why we aim to make it quite practical so that they know how to respond to it.
okay. All
Learning
right.
a lot
No,
about
no,
yourself.
it does make sense.
Yeah.
Now, when you're working with children and teenagers, do they need to have a guardian present or the parent present when you're doing the consultation, or it
No.
can just be them? Okay.
Yeah. Preferably not. Preferably not.
Okay.
Sometimes for the younger ones, they want their parent to be there for the first session because they're like, who's this random lady that I'm going to now
Yeah.
speak to?
Yeah.
So first time, it's like that's fine, but afterwards, it's preferred not to because this is a space where the child can say anything, even
And
about the
open.
parent. So if the parent's going to be sitting there, it's like, oh, it's a bit of
Mm,
going to be a bit weird for them. Um, so for therapy, a big thing is confidentiality. So the parent, we don't really want the parent to be there. So it's important for the door to be closed and for them to have their own space. So I always recommend to do it in their rooms where it's
mm,
private, it's quiet, it's their own safe space. Um, Parents are involved in the process, but they are not involved in the session itself.
okay. That was my next question,
Yeah.
because if you were to deal with my child, let's say I had a child,
Mm,
and they're opening up to you that way, you're somebody online out there,
mhm.
and they're opening up to you. I'm staying with my child in the house, and you find out that there are things that needs parents' attention. And you spoke
Absolutely.
about confidentiality there, but if parents need to know what is happening to a child so that they can um, adjust the environment for the child, they would need to know the details.
Absolutely.
So where do you draw the line between
Yeah.
confidentiality between the child
Yeah,
and
it's
the
hard,
parent?
right? so so confidentiality is
Mm.
broken only when there's like a threat. So if the child or the teenager is like suicidal or there's
Suicide.
abuse going on, anything like that, like there is no confidentiality. It's broken.
Mm.
um but the things that are feedbacked, if that's a word, feedback back to the parents
Yeah.
is what they need to do to help the kid.
Oh, yes.
So this is the breathing technique. Was discussed. Can you expand? Please remind them to do XYZ when they are feeling angry.
Okay.
Whatever, right? I really recommend you to not shout at them when they're crying, right? So it's like the a bit of guidance for the parents more than anything,
Mm.
um, which is really appreciated. And if there is a parent meeting or something that I really think should be brought up, it is always discussed with the child first or with the teenager first. So is it okay if I tell mom or dad? Is it, is there anything you do not want me to say in this meeting? I will not say it. So very much everyone is in the loop of what's happening. So there's no, someone feels betrayed or in the dark or anything like that. Parents very much respect that confidentiality. And it's most effective when the parents take on the feedback that they're given and really action it out. That's when we
Mm.
really see progress. When the parents
Okay.
don't do what's being in the feedback, progress is a bit slow because
Mm.
it's a kid at the end of the day.
That's so true. So I want to welcome those that are connected on Telegram. Welcome to the show. If you do have a question or comment, please raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to speak to our guest. And those that are also connected on Riverside, you can do the same by typing your question or your comment on the chat section there, and then we'll read it out. We also have those that are connected on YouTube live now. You also would be able to type your question there, and then we can read it out to our special guest. Now, as we propel along, right,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen how confidentiality is very important and how it which circumstances that is broken, and different types of therapy that you give to the different groups, which is a child, a teenager, and an adult. So how do you measure progress in therapy, and how often is progress reviewed?
So how do we measure progress is different for each patient, obviously. We look at initial challenges, so why the patient was brought into therapy in the first place.
Mhm.
Um, and as we are dealing with a specific issue, we are basically tracking. I'm tracking with my notes, parents are tracking with the child's behavior,
Yeah.
we are tracking with parent meetings or with adult meetings, whatever. Um, so let's just say a patient's struggling with, I don't know, getting up in the morning, right? It's depression, getting up in the morning. Not getting up, they're not getting up. And then a month later, they start to get up. So that's, according to what the challenge is that we're dealing with, we track it as we go along, really.
Okay.
And we review as we go. So we review, we adjust, we discuss it. I do check ins a lot of the time. And then we have, if it's with children and teenagers, with parents, we do like a parent check in. So almost like a progress review every second month, perhaps every 3 weeks. It really depends. Um, on the patient, and we discuss what's been improved, what's not been improved. Also with teachers and psychiatrists. So there's an appointment coming up with the psychiatrist. This is what's happening. So that's how we really keep in the loop, and that's how we track it, and according to feedback as well.
Awesome. We do have a comment on YouTube. I
Yeah.
think it's a question from Bafana. He says, "Thank you, Leah. What would be your advice for someone who struggles with ongoing negative thoughts related to what one is going through when some techniques such as what is that? Diaphragmatic breathing exercises
Yeah.
or the 5 4 3 2 1 method
Yes.
isn't working? Could you perhaps also suggest an advanced level of anxiety on that individual?"
hmm Okay. Yeah. Can I respond?
Yes, yes, yes.
So the 5 4 3 2 1, or the heavy breathing,
Mm-hmm.
is more for calming down than with
Okay.
negative thoughts. So it's more like if you really panicked or you're super anxious and you can't breathe, or you're feeling really overwhelmed, then those two techniques would help you, because you're basically calming down your nervous system. But with negative thoughts, that's different. So you first need to calm down before you do these techniques. So you can use the 5 4 3 2 1. But with the negative thoughts, you want to basically do two things. So first is to challenge them. So if your negative thought is saying everyone hates me at work,
Mm.
let's just say, then it's like, okay, well, who is everyone? Right? Who is it? Name it. If you can't name it, then it's not really everyone, is it?
Mm.
So you're basically wanting to see, is my thought a fact, or is it just an assumption because I'm anxious or because I'm insecure about something? If it's an assumption, you know not to believe it, and so you can change it. Most of the time it is an assumption because it's a negative thought. So challenging the thought that comes up. Is it a fact, or is it an assumption? What evidence do you have to back it up, really? And the second one is to change it from an unhelpful thought to a helpful thought. So that, which is the negative thought. So if it's everyone hates me at work, then you're basically saying, I know you may be not feeling so confident at the moment. This is really how you need to talk to yourself. I know you're not feeling so confident at the moment, but you have this colleague that really likes you. You sit with this person at lunch, right? And kind of giving yourself good affirmation. So you basically want to like switch the thought. But in order to do that, you really need to notice them. So
Yeah.
as soon as you notice the thought, swap it. But it takes practice, because you need to basically like rewire the brain. So every time this person has a negative thought, they have to swap it to a
Yeah.
helpful one, or they have to challenge it, which is hard. But
And I guess also,
mm,
well, I'm not a professional at this, but I'm
yeah,
assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the professional
yeah,
here. But I'm assuming once you start those thoughts, you don't wanna dwell on them for a long period of time. So the moment
exactly.
you get the trigger, already you've told yourself that the moment I do this, I start thinking negatively, let me rush and point out the positives. Because if you dwell on the negative thought, it's like
Mhm.
a quagmire. The more you wiggle, the deeper you sink.
100%. 100%, exactly. Because then I say to myself, there we go, professional. So you're basically saying to yourself, everyone hates me. Yeah, everyone really does hate me. Did you see
Yeah,
how yesterday? Oh, and look at the spiral that I'm going
yeah,
into.
spiraling down.
No. As soon as you catch yourself with a negative thought, you're saying, stop, hold on,
Mm,
let's change it. Let's
yeah,
challenge it. Let's change it. How is this thought going to become helpful for me? because a negative thought is unhelpful.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for
that's
that. Bafana, I hope your question has been answered. If it has, please post a thumbs up or something there.
mm,
And Tabang also has a follow-up question. What's the best way of getting someone to go for therapy?
ooh, tough one. Tough one. So firstly, the person who you want to go to therapy needs to be open to therapy. If someone isn't open to therapy, it's not useful.
Mm,
So first approach the person with, would you be open to it? Or maybe we can
mm,
look together. Is this something you would want to do? Because I can refer someone to it, but the person needs to be open to actually going, right? So asking, figuring it out. And then if someone wants to refer, look for someone that the person would suit according to what what they're struggling with, according to if they want a man or a woman, if they want online or offline, whatever it is. And then you can kind of connect the two. But just know that whoever you're referring to, you are now out the picture once you've referred. No one can
okay.
get you involved, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like you said, it's a difficult one because if you
Hmm.
say to someone that I think we should go look for therapy, they might turn around and say, "Do you think I'm crazy? So am I the problem?"
Mm-hmm.
And then now,
Absolutely.
where do you run to now? You've opened a can of worm,
And
and you've actually taken that person 10 steps behind because now they start judging themselves as inadequate. They, yeah, that's
yeah,
a tricky one.
it's a
That's
tricky
a
one. So it has to be very, very
mm,
slow, and it's just kind of like putting it. So not being like, I think you should go to therapy. Someone be like, excuse me, right? Just be like, I I saw this person and it's so interesting. Like, I would love to go to this person, right? Like,
yeah.
very open ended,
Mm,
doesn't have to
mm,
be exact. And just talk like, what do you think about therapy?
mm.
Almost bring it forward with like interest, intrigue, and not very specific. Depends who you're talking to. Everyone's
Need tech.
different. So
You
just
need
with a
tech.
little bit of like empathy and
Mm.
compassion and very open.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. Tabang, I hope your question has been answered there. You can also do a thumbs up or just type if you're okay with it. Bafana said you've answered the question very well. Thanks.
Awesome. Good luck.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I
Yes.
haven't heard you speaking about medication.
Mm.
Do
What
you
are my thoughts?
prescribe medication? What are
I
your
don't.
thoughts on it? Okay.
So I don't prescribe medication. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't.
Oh, mhm,
I can recommend it as something to look
okay.
into for a patient. I am always in contact with psychiatrists of patients of mine, but I don't
Mm,
prescribe medication.
mm,
I'm in I'm in the team of it, but I'm not one to prescribe. Medication is good when it's needed, and medication is helpful when it's prescribed properly and well, where a lot of the time it's so over medicated. And so when a patient takes medication, I'm very on it, right? So I'm like, when did you start? How are you feeling? What symptoms are you having? um Not symptoms, side effects. What side effects are you having? um you know I think we need to review it. Then I update the psychiatrist. So I'm very much in the loop because medication is intense. Like, there's a lot to it, and there's lots of
mm,
side effects, and everyone responds to medication differently. So it is good when it is necessary, And when it is not necessary, it does more damage than anything. So it very much depends.
There needs a balance there, right?
For sure. And also, a lot of the time people just think, oh, I'm just going to take some meds and my problems are fixed. And it doesn't work
Mm,
like that. There
mm,
has to be a mix of everything together. But
mm,
medication is a plaster, but it doesn't actually heal the wound,
the
right? It's
wound.
like, oh, it's nice, it stops a bit of the bleeding,
Mm.
but it doesn't heal it. So,
I,
mm,
I think the environment also plays a very important role.
of course, huge role.
Because if the environment is not good, it doesn't help taking medication where when
Uh-huh.
it wears off, you're in the same environment that triggers. So
Absolutely.
fixing the environment and getting the support from the family, friends, everyone that's around you
Hmm.
would really go a long way.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. The environment is a
Yeah.
huge part in all of this. Specific, when someone's struggling with severe mental health disorder or challenges, the environment can really trigger. And if they have support from their environment, it is very beneficial for their process. Um, and unfortunately sometimes they don't have that. So it's looking at your triggers in your environment, the people in your environment, and for a child or for a teenager, that's why parents are so involved, because they are the environment.
Yeah.
So I
Makes
agree.
sense. Yeah.
Yes.
So, so there's a crisis now. How do you handle crisis or emergency situations, particularly with children and teens?
Okay, so um obviously depends on the emergency or crisis,
Yeah.
but I'm always available. So when there is an emergency or crisis, I usually get a message from a parent or from the teenager or child themselves,
Mm,
and I am on the phone. I immediately get into contact with someone that's there, and I'm on the phone, and we basically see. Okay, let's just say the crisis is I'm having a panic attack. I can't breathe. I
yeah.
don't know what to do. I'm out with friends. So it's okay. I'm now basically guide through the crisis or the emergency, whatever it is, right? So it's literally guiding them through it, or it's giving parents guidance through it. So it's like literally typing out
Mm,
throughout. Um, and so, it needs full attention because it is a crisis.
mm,
So it definitely needs that, but it's literally guiding, breaking it down, because when a patient or a parent is in crisis, they are they can't think straight,
I can't
right? They're
think.
super
Yeah.
irrational,
Yeah.
they freak
Yeah.
out. So I need to be the calm one. I need to be the mediator to calm down the situation.
Mm.
But
Wow.
there's lots of them.
We're
But
very thankful to have, we're very thankful
so
to have people like you. Eh? We need you.
it's intense, yeah. We all need
Yeah.
sometimes that
Yeah.
helping hand, for
Honestly.
sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what strategies do you use to help clients to build coping skills outside the
Mhm.
therapy session?
So for each thing, there are different strategies, right? So, for example, the guy that wrote on YouTube, the comment. So, that is a
Mm.
strategy, for example, that's a
Okay.
coping
Yeah.
skill that's been given. So, when he or she, I don't know who it was, or they are outside of session time, when they're actually in those moments of having those negative thoughts,
Mm.
they now know what to do. Um, so, for example, it can be how to calm yourself down. It can be how to change your thoughts. It can be how to manage when you're feeling really low or really overwhelmed. it can be a coping skill, can be how to calm yourself down when you're really angry, or how to communicate with your parents. Depends on what the patient's there for, right? But it's very technique based, because it's nice to talk to me for an hour, and then what happens? I don't know what to do in that
Yeah.
situation. My therapist isn't there.
Mm.
So it's really important to, give those strategies, whatever they may be, outside, and adjust it. Some things will work, some things won't. But what I can say is that with coping skills, with these techniques, essentially, is consistency is key with them. So in
Mm.
order to see a positive effect, we need consistency.
Wow.
I went on a rant, but yes.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're almost there with our show, and
I know.
we spoke about um, techniques. We spoke about confidentiality, um, approach to medication, and handling crisis. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any success stories you would love to share with us?
Oh, um, of course. Let me choose. Today, I'll give you an
Okay,
example of a success story today from a
fire
session
from
that I had
heaven.
early on.
Yeah.
So I've been working with a teenage boy
Mm.
from England with severe anxiety, different anxiety struggles, but basically doesn't leave the home anxiety. And worked super hard and really like twice a week sessions and everything. And this process usually takes a few years, right? And it's now a year. So I know it sounds long. I know it sounds long, but it's not for the condition that he is
Yeah.
in. And he was like, Lear, on the weekend I went out
Oh, nice.
and I went for a drive and I went to a restaurant. And this patient doesn't leave his house,
Wow.
right? Didn't go to school. And I was like, oh, what? It's like, oh my God, that's amazing. You don't want to like overplay it because then it's stressful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
inside, you are like explosion. So that's one from today, which is really, really big, like really big. I know it sounds small, but it's big for the condition that he's in. And like a lot of the times, for kids that struggle with anxiety, for example, I had a teacher call me and she was like, I don't know what you did to this kid, but she's talking and she doesn't cry anymore at school. And she's, super talkative and has friends now, and, you know, completely different child. So there's lots of different ones in different ways. But it's always really rewarding to see, you know.
That is so good to hear.
Yeah, it's really
Wow.
cool. It's
It
really
is.
cool.
It is very encouraging as well. And
Totally.
especially when you sitting from my side, being a listener, um, there are successful stories out there, and
Absolutely.
you're not alone out there. There are people that are struggling, like you struggling, and they've taken a step forward and looked for help.
Hmm.
And there you are, hearing the success story. So basically, what I'm saying is, if you are going through a mental breakdown, we need to
Hmm.
seek help.
Of course.
We need to speak to somebody.
Hmm.
Now, you are a therapist, right?
Yes.
So we have therapists, we have psychologists, and
We have lots.
um, we have lots of them. Yeah,
We
even
have lots. We have
yeah,
counselors. We have social
counselors.
workers. We have
Exactly.
psychiatrists, we
Yeah.
have psychotherapists, we have lots.
So, what fist do you go for when you have a mental?
So two. Depends what it is. Depends what it is.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you want to get a diagnosis, for example,
Okay.
like a formal one with medication, then you need to go to a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
If you want someone to talk to and debrief with and gain skills and have like this space to really talk through your struggles, we basically all do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different titles, I guess. So, like a psychotherapist would be really good for trauma, as an example. Um, a cognitive behavioral therapist will be really good for anxiety or OCD. A counselor will be really good for everyday mental health struggles. Um, or just challenges, really, someone to talk to. A clinical psychologist, so a psychologist will be really good for mental health disorders. And a social worker is almost like, not almost like, but one of the therapists. But
Mm-hmm.
really, honestly, one of the most important things is that you click with the person that you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
You feel
Mm-hmm.
safe, you feel comfortable, you feel open, right? That click is really important, because otherwise it really does damage more than anything. And that you can actually see an improvement in your feelings and in how you're managing. More important than the title. So yeah,
Click.
that's really important. That click.
Yeah. Right.
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
Leah, thank you so much, man.
Thank
That
you.
this was very insightful, and I know my audience have benefited from this, and we're going to post this show on different platforms, and whoever will be listening, I know that they will benefit from it. We do have a comment or question on Telegram. Let
Mm.
me Hilda, welcome to the show. You can unmute yourself there.
Thank you so much for the time, Leo.
Pleasure.
One question to
Mm.
your guest. Working with mental health issues, assisting people, do you sometimes feel overwhelmed? And if so, do you also go for counseling or not?
Good question.
Yeah, go for it.
So thanks for your question. So a few things here. So the reason why I became a psychologist was because I struggled with my mental health. So I definitely go to a therapist. um, and of course, you feel overwhelmed, specifically after like a really long day of sessions, or if there was crisis during the day. Um, you get drained. I think what the
Mm,
word is drained.
mm,
Um, and so, because of this, I'm very strict on rest and self care and me time, because otherwise I can't provide what I need to provide to them if I'm completely like depleted.
mm.
To answer your question, yes, I do go to my own therapy, and yes to getting overwhelmed. So for sure, of course, you're taking on a lot.
Yeah, that could
Yeah.
be a lot. I mean, if one is struggling with their own issues,
Mm.
and then you have to deal with many people's issues, you have to
Hmm.
be a super person, superwoman, in your case, to handle those. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you also, getting support of some
Of
nature
course.
so that you can deal with it. Otherwise, we
Yeah.
will bury you.
For sure, of course. And also, you have to, once close
Mm,
the laptop, I'm like, done, goodbye. you know,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
have to be very objective. But in general, we have supervisors as well that kind of guide us with our
Okay.
patients as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I've had a rheumatologist joining the show, being a guest on the show, and what she said is she was also struggling from rheumatic disease as well.
Mhm.
So, does it happen that when you struggle from something and then you get so interested in it on how to deal with it that you become not a pro, but you become a best person to help others deal with it?
I think so. I really think so. Because you
Mm,
really, it's beyond theory.
yeah.
It's beyond just learning about it. You've
Mm,
experienced it. And a lot of the time I get clients and they're like, yes, that's exactly what it is. And I'm like, I know,
mm,
I felt it.
in there,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's very much when it comes from a personal space and experience. I think you extra pro a little bit sometimes
Yeah.
because you really, a parent said to me, the reason why I chose you to be my daughter's therapist was because I saw that you went through it as well. And I was like, oh, she'll
Mm,
get my kid. And I was like, I do get her
mm,
a lot,
mm.
So a lot of the time you feel almost what not exactly, of course, but you get it. You get it beyond just the theory of it,
That's
if
the
that makes
theory.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you know which questions to ask.
exactly. You
Yeah.
you you read it more. Yeah, for sure.
So for the
Absolutely.
benefit of my audience, you said you international,
Mhm.
you consult everywhere in the
Yes,
long as people can connect in the comfort of their homes. Um,
absolutely.
do you only do online or do you also do in person?
Only online.
Only
Only,
online.
only online.
Okay, all
Yes.
right. And
Mhm.
where you based? Are you overseas?
I'm in
Uh,
Johannesburg most
in
of the
Johannesburg.
time. Most of the
Okay.
time.
All
Most of the time in
right.
Johannesburg. Yeah.
I knew that. I just wanted for them to know that I'm speaking to somebody who's local.
I'm
Sometimes
all local, born and bred.
yeah. Don't be fooled by the name. She's
Yeah,
part.
exactly. I am South African.
Right.
Yeah,
All right.
totally.
Yeah, we've reached the end of our show. Just your
Alhamdulillah.
closing remarks before we sign out and say to
I think really if you are struggling with anything mental health wise, know that there's help out there, know that you can get help and that you should get help. And it's brave to do so. And it's, requires a lot of strength and resilience, and you deserve it. So if you need help, get help, and it's out there. It's there for you. So always,
thank you,
always.
thank you so much. I always write my closing remarks so that I don't mess it up. And you've mentioned a lot of things that really captured the essence of promoting therapy, and then I really appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to an end of today's enlightening and heartfelt discussion about mental health therapy, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to our incredible guest therapist for sharing their profound insight, wisdom, and compassion with us. Thank you so much, Leah, for that.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you.
And to everyone tuning in, remember that reaching out for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Mental health is just as crucial as physical health, and seeking therapy is a powerful step toward healing and growth. If you're struggling, know that you're not alone. There are professionals who care deeply about your well-being, and they are ready to support you through your journey. Each of us has the capacity of resilience and recovery. It might not be easier path, but with the right support and self-care, it is absolutely possible to navigate through the challenges and emerge stronger and more self-aware. We encourage you to take that brave step forward, whether it's by talking to a therapist, confiding in a trusted friend or family member, or simply acknowledging your own struggles and giving yourself the grace and patience to heal. Thank you for being there with us today. And remember, taking care of your mental health is a continuous journey that deserves your attention and care. Be kind to yourself and reach out if you need help. We believe in you and we are here to support you every step of the way. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and take good care of yourself. My name is Neo Morapedi, the host of NMP Talk Show, and we signing out.